Hello chums, and welcome to the Fastest Lap series, where I'll be putting all of the road cars in Gran Turismo 7 to the test. Each car will be scrutinised in a few ways, once with no upgrades and comfort soft tyres, once with all upgrades and racing soft tyres, and once with an engine swap if the option is available. All cars are tested on a PlayStation 5 controller because I am an unsophisticated proletarian, and I drive each car with no driver assists except for ABS. I am by no means a professional, but I can usually complete a lap without binning my car into a wall, so hopefully I can do each car justice. The chosen test track is the Nurburgring Sprint course for its variety of corner types, along with a few longer straights to test every aspect of a car's performance. Let's see today's contender. The Audi TT was a car that made humongous waves in the automotive industry thanks almost entirely to its extraordinary styling, and not a lot else. Despite being developed in the 1990s, it's a design that is still instantly recognisable. When new, the original Audi TT was driven by a man who wore an ironed shirt, an absurd pair of polarised sunglasses, and a Bluetooth earpiece that didn't work, but it made him look more important than he was. In 2025, these cars have been through 7 different owners who have done less and less maintenance, to the point that these visual masterpieces are worn out, covered in eBay modifications, and suffering with at least 3 different warning lights. In the 1990s, Audi had toyed with the idea of producing a sports car to generate some interest in the brand, whose image had become slightly boring with the Audi Quattro no longer in production and other sporty models like the RS2 being sold only in limited numbers. Audi wanted something that was both more accessible but cheaper to design and produce. The TT's styling was penned by Freeman Thomas and Jay Mays, both of whom were on the team that created the VW Concept 1 that would go on to become the new Beetle. They took inspiration from the German Bauhaus movement, a modernistic style of art and architecture using simple geometric shapes, modern materials, and no unnecessary ornamentation. The Bauhaus movement was prominent in Germany between the 2 world wars, being more or less forcibly shut down in 1933 because the Nazi regime wasn't very fond of creative expression. This Bauhaus inspiration had already showed somewhat in the new Beetle concept, but it was taken a step further with the Audi TT with a less cartoonish and more grown-up style. In order to reduce development costs, it was decided that the new sports car would share a platform with the front-wheel drive Audi A3, Volkswagen Golf Mark IV, and the original Skoda Octavia. There were also meetings held between the Volkswagen Group and Porsche to discuss the potential to create a Porsche variant of this new concept. Talks didn't go particularly well since Porsche supposedly wanted the Volkswagen Audi variant of the car to be limited to front-wheel drive and 130 horsepower, which probably didn't go down very well. No matter, Porsche had the Boxster on the horizon anyway. The first Audi TT concept was shown at the 1995 Frankfurt Motor Show to an almost euphoric response from the public thanks to its styling. With the enthusiasm towards this concept and the Roadster concept shown soon after, it wasn't a very difficult choice to go ahead with production. Initially, the plan was to more or less reuse the Audi A3's running gear, but it was decided that the TT needed more performance. Early models were available with the 1.8 turbo that you'd find in a Mark IV Golf GTI, but the wheezing 150 horsepower was uprated to either 180 or 220, depending on how poor the buyer was. Later on in the car's life cycle, however, they did introduce the 150 horsepower version for the even poorer buyers. With the extra power, Audi also needed to uprate the suspension and the brakes, since carryovers from the Audi A3 yet again wouldn't cut it. Fairly soon after the car's introduction to the market, a rather large problem reared its head. The car was aerodynamically unstable. That smooth shape had resulted in some unpredictable handling at speed and ended up causing a few, unfortunately, fatal accidents. Audi's solution was to stiffen the suspension and add a small ducktail spoiler to the boot lid, something which deeply offended the more style-conscious of the car's fans. Since 220 horsepower wasn't really enough to keep up with rivals such as the Nissan 350Z or the BMW Z4, Audi decided to introduce the variant of the car you see in Gran Turismo 7. They added the 3.2-litre VR6 engine from the Volkswagen Golf R32 with 247 horsepower. This engine was also available with the new DSG gearbox, a dual-clutch automatic which could shift gears in the blink of an eye. Thanks to its lack of reliability, it was a bit like a hand grenade on a random timer, but it did help the 1500kg fat bastard move rather quickly. But how will it perform in Gran Turismo? As a quick side note, if you enjoy these history segments, try out the Big Car YouTube channel. He goes into much more detail than I do and tells some very interesting stories. Or what I should say is, try his channel after you've watched the rest of this video. Like all unmodified cars in this series, this car has no upgrades that affect the performance in any way, and it is fitted with Comfort Soft tyres. The reason all cars are fitted with Comfort Soft tyres is because they will give a very rough approximation of how the real-life car will perform on some fancy Michelin Pilot Sport tyres, which are some of the better summer tyres on the market, which are road-biased but can handle a track day. While the sports tyres would be faster, there aren't many cars on the street rolling around on Cup 2R tyres. Last time out, I tested the FK2 Honda Civic Type R, and I mentioned that it handled very well for a front-wheel drive. This Audi has four-wheel drive, but nobody remembered to tell it that. It feels more like a front-wheel drive than the Civic does. Honestly, I'm not even joking. The Audi has fairly pronounced lift-off oversteer, like a front-wheel drive, followed by power understeer, spinning the front wheels. Coupled with an utterly depressing engine sound, this is not a particularly nice car to drive. Ironically, all it would take to fix is a limited slip differential. Either way, it achieves a 1 minute 48.898, nearly 2 seconds behind the 1954 Maserati A6 Spider. So, will some upgrades fix it? At this point, I'm fairly well known for tonguing the backside of nostalgia, so it was only fitting that I recreated the Audi TT LM Edition from Gran Turismo 2. The livery from that car was itself inspired by the Audi R8R Le Mans prototype, which raced in the World Endurance Series in 1999, and was the predecessor to the successful and very well-known Audi R8 LMP race car. Unlike previous Gran Turismo games, the Audi TT V6 now has the option of a turbo kit, which pushes its maximum power to over 500 horsepower. Like all upgraded cars, this one is on racing soft tyres and has every performance upgrade available, including wide body, aftermarket wheels, any visual options that add downforce, and the body rigidity increase. For the setup, anti-roll bars and natural frequency are both stiff to reduce body roll. Toe in has been added to the front to get the car rotated more on corner entry, and toe out has been added to the rear to try and help the car pull itself out of corners for better exit speeds. For the LSD, low torque and braking settings help with agility, and a high acceleration setting slightly reduces power understeer by sending more power to the outside wheel. Setting the front acceleration value lower than the rear should increase this effect. I still don't like this car. If you've ever heard a VR6 engine with a loud exhaust, it is utterly awesome. This car meanwhile sounds like it wants to die, no matter what upgrades or exhausts you fit. As for the way it drives, even with fairly aggressive settings, it will still tend towards understeer when accelerating, and it feels very front heavy. The slight front toe-in makes the car a bit unstable on corner entry, but for me it was a compromise to get the car pointing in the right direction. Whatever way you look at it, the Audi TT is going to be outclassed by the majority of four-wheel drive cars in this game. However, four-wheel drive still counts for something, as it gets a 1 minute 25.473. That time places it just ahead of the rotary-swapped Mazda NA Roadster, which had over 50 horsepower more and weighed 300 kilograms less, and also had the benefit of more downforce. Four-wheel drive traction works like a cheat code sometimes. The stock car meanwhile doesn't use its four-wheel drive to any kind of advantage whatsoever, leaving it nearly 2 seconds behind the Maserati A6 Spider, and that car was not fast nor easy to drive. Unfortunately, the Audi TT is a car I recommend you don't really bother with. It's not offensively bad or anything, but there really isn't anything going for it. There's no real reason to bother with this car when the majority of other four-wheel drive cars are either faster, nicer, more fun, or all of the above. So, that was the 4th car in the Fastest Lap series. Tune in next time to see something American. If you have any requests for cars you want to see tested sooner, please comment down below. Thank you very much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, I'll be very grateful for your subscription. Take care now, and ta-ra.